What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a little bit of a look at some new cards from Starter Deck 10. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Starter Deck 10 is now coming. It's coming out quite soon, actually. It's coming out in about 6 weeks' time, as I've said several times at this stage. It's coming out the day I land in Japan. That's weird. I hope I can find somewhere that's got it in stock. When I did show you the leaders the other day, we've seen the free leaders. What we haven't seen, however, are any of the cards from the deck, and we've been promised at this stage. We have been promised that these are going to be good cards, that this is going to be a competitive deck out of the box, that this is going to be basically a better version of the starter decks we've seen so far. And I tell you what, we got 3 red cards to be having a look at today. Bearing in mind we're talking dual colour red and purple, but all the ones we're looking at today are red. And I'll tell you something for nothing, all of these look kind of good. But we'll start off with Luffy, because Luffy looks really kind of good. What we got here is 10 cost, 11,000 power, no counter. Now this is as expensive as you get. And 11,000 is actually really kind of powerful. We have seen a couple of 12,000 power cards, but 11,000 is huge. So yeah, you're really paying for this, but 11,000 is kind of worth it. But that's not all, because we've also got Rush. Now Rush is the whole, you can attack the turn you play a card skill. That is good. Most cards don't have Rush the turn you play them. And don't get me wrong, like, Red has more Rush than most. This isn't even the first Luffy we've had with Rush. Let's not forget that if we go back to the very first Starter Deck Luffy has got Rush. So, yeah, that kind of tells you what you need to know. You know, the very first Luffy, well, not the very first, you know what I mean? Like, the Luffy in the starter deck, like, right at the beginning of the game, that super rare Luffy from that starter deck had Rush. And actually, in a lot of ways, this new Luffy is a souped-up version of that Luffy. And then, of course, let's not forget, you know, the big famous Rusher, the Roanoa Zoro from Romance Dawn, which, yeah, that's cool. Still waiting for the $50 Akira Igawa artwork. I might be waiting a while. It is not dropping as I was hoping. Hey ho. But then, as well as having Rush, once per turn, when your opponent activates Blocker, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 8,000 power or less. This is nuts. This is like genuinely fantastically brilliant. And bearing in mind, like, red is the best color in the game. So yeah, do we need more super powerful red cards? I'm saying maybe not, but we've got another good one here. By the way, when I was comparing this to the starter deck Luffy, it is a red Luffy with Rush that hates on blockers. Luffy from starter deck 1's got Don X2 when attacking, your opponent can't activate Blocker. This one is, if your opponent does activate Blocker, you get to KO an 8,000 power or less character. I should say I did the translations here myself, but I have checked with Eve Orange Samurai D over on Facebook. And the thing here is, this is redonk, because you've got an 11,000 power character with Rush. If your opponent has a blocker, they're probably going to want to activate Blocker. But if they activate Blocker, you get to KO an 8,000 or less. Now, I'm not 100% on this ruling, and do correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong about this, but I believe, essentially, you attack, your opponent activates Blocker, the attack is redirected to the blocker, then you get to KO a character, i.e. if you KO the character, the attack has already been redirected, so you couldn't basically go to attack, your opponent says I'm going to block, and then you KO the blocker to make the attack go through. I don't believe it works that way. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes. This is good. This is very, very good. It's an 11,000 power character with Rush that can KO an 8,000 or less, which, to be clear, is the vast majority of characters. I love it. I absolutely love it. You basically take out your opponent's best character going into their turn so they don't have it anymore. It's a 10 cost, don't get me wrong, but you earn the 10 cost here. Now, we also have a Sanji, 6 cost, 6,000 power, counter plus 1,000. Does have a counter, this one. And also kind of rush. On play, if your opponent has a character with 5,000 power or more in play, this character gains rush. I mean, technically it says this character gains rush this turn, or during this turn. But rush only works when you play the character anyway. So, like, does it matter if you get rush next turn? I'm going to suggest not, ladies and gentlemen. But we got another rusher. And I like this. Another character with rush. Now, this is a point where some of you are going to look and go, well, hang on a second, Wassy. It's been a minute since you told us about the 3 cost 5,000 power Roanoa Zoro with rush. Now you're telling us about a 6 cost 6,000 power Sanji with rush. Well, surely you could just put one Don card on to Roanoa Zoro and just play Zoro instead. And yes, you could. Because then you'd be paying 4 Don total, 3 to play Zoro and 1 to attach, and you'd be up to 6,000 power. But here's the thing. Firstly, you can play them both in the same deck and have lots of rushers. And secondly, Sanji has counter. One of the really rough things about the Roanoa Zoro is that you don't have any counter there. Which, and you know, when your opponent's attacking, you need to block, you need to counter, you need to stop those attacks going through. If you play too many characters that don't have counter, you can leave yourself in some very awkward positions. So it's really awkward sometimes trying to figure out how many non-countering characters you can actually afford to play. There's a lot of good characters out there that don't have any kind of countering, but there comes a point where you have to actually start putting some counter in your deck. And that's the thing here with Sanji. I think a lot of the time I'd rather have Roanoa Zoro as a rusher because it's literally half the cost. It's a 3 cost, not a 6 cost. And I know it's 1,000 less power, but like I've said, just pop a Don on there, you'll be fine. The difference is that now all of a sudden you got a counter as well. That can be pretty gosh darn big. Although remember, Sanji doesn't have rush unless your opponent has a character with 5,000 power or more. So it's far from perfect, don't get me wrong, but it's another good character with rush to pop into red. And then we finish off with Jinbe. I've gotten past the time skip now in the manga. I've met Jinbe. Jinbe's pretty cool. Not sure 2,000 power is appropriate, but I digress. 2 cost, 2,000 power, counter plus 2,000. Does this one have rush? Nah. But what we have got here is Don X1, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for this turn. It's alright, honestly. Like, it's not stunningly amazing. I'm not claiming this is some kind of like stunning, amazing, game-breaking card. That's not the point. I think Luffy is like a genuinely like ridiculous card. I think Sanji's pretty good. And I think Jinbe's pretty good. One of the things to bear in mind here is, there's a few things to bear in mind. Firstly, you're a 2,000 power with an attacking skill. So you can either be taking out weak characters, that will work. Okay, fine. You've got to put 1 Don on there, so you're effectively a 3,000 power with an attacking skill. But you can take away weak characters, or you can attack into the leader. But bearing in mind, if you want to attack into the leader, you've got to have at least 5,000 power, because, as we've seen many times, generally speaking, leaders have 5,000 power. The tie goes to the attacker, which is nice, but you've still got to have like 5,000 power to make it worth launching an attack. What that means is you need to buff this up a bit. Or take out weaker characters. They are your two choices. There is absolutely no point attacking into the leader just to get this skill. That is a waste of an attack. So you need to be buffing up your power a little bit, or you need to be taking out resting characters. Either is fine, but you got to bear that in mind on a weaker character that does have an attacking skill. Minus 2,000 power, decent. Not on the leader, it's only on a character, but you could take down a blocker to make them not be able to block you anymore. Well, not while surviving, and you can just cause your opponent a little bit of awkwardness. So yeah, this is pretty gosh darn cool. I like Jinbe, I like Sanji, I love the Luffy here. This Luffy is awesome. But now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these cards. Tell me how good they are. Tell me which other cards you want to be seeing from Starter Deck 10. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @LeWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.